Welcome to the Butterfly Effect. I'm Chris Horner. This is stage 16 of the Vuelta a España 2024, brought to you by Lupine Lights. Lupine Lights, the finest lights I've ridden throughout my career, and I've been riding them since 2019. With, of course, Bluetooth technology, you can control your headlamp and the lights on your bars from anywhere on your person. They have the app on your phone so you can adjust the power of each of the settings on your headlamp. That'll make sure you can get home safe and sound. Light up your streets, light up your trails, use your Lupine Lights. If you're looking to save 24%, use the code LupineLights24. Now, what's going to happen in today's stage 16? Because they have the famous summit finish climb here that's about 16 kilometers long, and we're talking about 9% sections of over 8K on today's finishing summit climb. Does have a couple little steps that drop down. There's down, twisty, and curvy, and quite a bit down. When I did this when I was racing in my Lotto days, it's strange to climb so hard, so steep, and then have the descents where your legs just blow up, and then you got to get back on the pedals, not once, but twice. And it comes under 3.5 kilometers to go, and then, of course, we'll bring you into about 500 meters to go, and then straight back up to the finish of today's stage. So it's a very hard stage at 182 kilometers, about 115 miles in length, with 3 category climbs. You know it's going to be one for the GC guys, but will it be one for the breakaway? Well, when the cameras come on, we see attacks right away. It's pseudo quick step going up the road. Wout van Aert's getting interesting up there. He's trying to get in the break because he's wearing the Sprint Leaders jersey and the KOM jersey. So if you want to keep that KOM jersey in your Visma Lease bike, you got to send the big guy Wout van Aert up the road. Well, all that gets brought back, and then we see Wout van Aert goes down in a crash about 4 kilometers from kilometer 0 here in today's stage 16. It's going to take the big guy about 10 kilometers of chasing for him to get back on the back end of the peloton, and it was attacks left and right through all those 10 kilometers. So Wout van Aert, you probably had to use some energy, and of course the crash might have taken some to get to the back of the peloton. Now, though, Wout van Aert's not done. He still wants some KOM jersey, so we're going to see 30 kilometers into the race with 150 kilometers to go. We got 17 riders in the front group, and the big guy, Wout van Aert, made it. Now, what you want to pay attention to in this front group is there's 4 teams with multiple riders in there. When I call off UAE team Emirates, yeah, you guys expected that. And yes, you expected Marc Soler to be in that front group. Del Toro made the front group, and Jay Vine again is in the front group. We look at the other teams, Israel Premier Tech, we got Marco Frigo and Rick Catello up there, the young American. Jayco got 2 riders in there, Philippe Bolzana, Felix Engelhardt, and then DSM have Max Pooley and Martin Tusveld in there, so it's 4 teams with multiple numbers, but UAE team members are represented with 3. Can they take away the KOM jersey from the big guy, Wout van Aert? Let's see. As this 17-rider group goes up the road, we see Ben O'Connor in the race leader's red jersey has a little bit of a crank problem back there, but there's no rush in the peloton as they've been going curb to curb, and the gap up to the 17 riders is going to start to expand. It's at 4 minutes about now while Ben O'Connor's fixing his cranks. By the time he gets back on and we hit the first of the climbs here, the category climbs in stage 16, we see the gap is up to about 9 minutes. That means we're going to get a breakaway stage to watch here sitting on the Chesterfield. And of course, you're going to get a GC battle. As these 17 riders are going up the climb, there's a little bit of battle up there at the front between Soler, Wout van Aert, and Jay Vine. UAE team members are trying to put some pressure there on Wout van Aert, but they're not really doing it right. You're not going to drop Wout van Aert 1 kilometer from the top of the KOM, so the big guy accelerates. He takes maximum points, which puts him solid in the KOM jersey, and he's wearing the green at this moment. Now they drop down the descent, and with about 65 kilometers to go, we see Movistar start getting on the front. AG2 Ira riding a steady tempo throughout the stage. Sometimes it looked like they might have been pushing a little bit too hard back there, but okay, the gap was still up to about 10 minutes. Movistar is getting on the front because we're coming up to the second category climb, and both these category climbs, the first one and the second, are monster steep. We're talking 9% sections throughout the climb, so Movistar is getting on the front because the racing's been too easy, and we're in the 3rd week of the Vuelta a España. And let me remind you guys, when we're talking about Enric Mas, he doesn't have any teammates that can go deep into the final climb of any stage of the Vuelta a España that I've seen so far throughout the first 15 stages. So when they're getting on the front right here, it's easy to see why they got to pick the pace up. I'm not opposed to it. They're not knuckleheads at this moment, but you don't want to have Mas get himself too isolated between the second KOM and the last KOM that's going to start with 16 kilometers to go, unless it's with an elite group and everybody there is working well together. So as we see Movistar starting to pick the pace up back there, the group of 17 is starting to reduce in size as we see Movistar's up there, Oye Lescano, he drops out of this group. Okay, now you know the alarm bells are going off in the peloton back there because the director sportifs have cameras in their car. Anyone that's not Movistar, because Movistar already know Lescano was pulling the plug up in the front, which means he's coming to the back, which means they want to go over the top of this climb full gas with Mas getting some effort on the legs back there of Ben O'Connor. So, alarm bells should be going off, and every director sportif from any team back there should be saying that if you're racing for GC, be prepared for Mas to start doing something special on this next category climb. Now, up front, we start seeing that UAE team members, they don't put up much of a battle here as Wout van Aert goes over the top of the KOM, again grabbing maximum points and buffeting at the KOM lead. We go back down the hill. What's happening back there? Well, Nairo Quintana's blowing up the peloton. It's reducing in size. People have been blowing out left and right. Then when he gets done, it's Einar Rubio up there that starts throwing in his attack with Mas on his wheel. Ben O'Connor still at the front. Primoz Roglič is there, and all the GC favorites are looking in the right position. Then Mas is going to throw in an acceleration. This is going to hurt some legs, but Ben O'Connor's still there. But the group's reducing down in size. He sits up. Mikel Landa from Pseudo Quick-Step throws in attack, and we got a long ways to go because this is still with about 58 kilometers to go right now, nearing the summit of this second category climb. With Landa up there and nobody really coming with him, he's going to back off the throttles. We see Parapentre back there has come back to the front for Ben O'Connor AG2R, and he's going to bring back Landa up front there. Now the group is all together, but Parapentre is setting some hard tempo on this climb. This moment, again, I didn't think they needed to be pulling so hard earlier in the stage at moments when it looked like they were, when the gap was still at 10 minutes. But the best guy in this group originally, when it was even 17 riders, was still more than a minute down. And there's no reason at this moment on this second category climb here of the day, it's a Cat 1, to actually be pulling so hard on the front. But Valentin Parapentre, with Ben O'Connor on his wheel, is trying to keep the GC favorites from attacking, but maybe putting a little too much effort into the pedals at this moment. Now, we go up to the front after the KOM. We see the breakaway bombing down the descent. The Solarism's off the back there. He's got a gap, but now all of a sudden we're coming into the left turn. First rider there goes down and crashes. Engelhart, as he crashes, he's got the big guy, Wout van Aert, sitting second wheel. Wout van Aert can't do anything about it. When I back up the film a little bit, why did Engelhart lose it? Well, you see he loses his back wheel, gets the bike straight, and now he's in trouble because he doesn't have the arch of the turn right. Doesn't have the inside apex anymore, and he's going to need more brake. Once he needs more brake, he loses the back wheel. He goes down. Wout van Aert goes down hard. And then we look at Del Toro from UAE team members as he crashed too. Now, Wout van Aert gets back up, gets on his bike, starts down the hill, but he's creeping down the hill at this moment. Looks like he's going to pull over and stop on the left side of the road, but the cameras find him on the right. He's got his car behind him. He's going to get off his bike and sit on the bumper there of the car after the hatchback there is opened up. As we see for the first time how bad the crash is here on Wout van Aert. We see his knee is bloody like crazy, and the big guy knows he's in pain as we hear him yelling through the speakers there of your television. Now the peloton's coming flying right by Wout van Aert, and they were more than 6, 7, 8 minutes back right now with Wout van Aert sitting on the bumper. So you got to believe this is a rough crash. We go back up to the front of the breakaway riders there. There's 10 guys dropping down this descent here. Then they'll get 11 when Guglielmi there from Arkea Samsic, when he gets himself back on. That's 11 riders in the front group with still a gap on the peloton. We start looking back there. Who's chasing now? Parapentre and his AG2R teammates there on the front. Parapentre is going to save his legs, though, as we see Bruno Armais taking most of the bulk of the work through the valley here for Ben O'Connor. Now, as the group increased in size, it blew up on that last climb from the attacks of Mas and from Landa and the pace of Parapentre. But as they were coming down the descent, the two groups have come back together in the peloton, if not 4 or 5, and it's gotten much bigger. Up in the breakaway, we got 11 guys, and they're coming into the sprint line points competition with no Wout van Aert. He's going to abandon today's stage, which means the green jersey is up for grabs, and it means the KOM jersey is going to go to a UAE Team Emirates rider because Jay Vine's been grabbing a lot of points on today's stage 2 behind Wout van Aert. So as we come up to the sprint line competition, it's Martin Toosveld. He'll cross the line first, but it's not going to matter because we know green is going to go to Caden Groves so he can make it through today's stage 16 in the Vuelta a España. We don't know where he's at, though, because he's way back there somewhere. It's been an exciting race right now. If you've been watching it from the Chesterfield from kilometer 0, it's been blowing up. up. Now we're coming into 12.5 kilometers to go as the last and final climb here on stage 16 starts, Lagos de Covadonga. Once this climb starts, it is steep. We start seeing right away as the breakaway starts blowing up back there. It's Simone Gluglime back there dropping. Franz Miholovic is coming off the back. Then we see Soler start getting gapped from the group. Martin Tusveld's coming off the back, so this group's getting reduced in number. We see Soler, he's struggling big time to start coming onto the back. Then we see the first attack from Marco Frigo from Israel Premier Tech. This is sending Soler out the back again, and it's making a selection at the front of about 4 riders as Del Toro's there. Marco Frigo, I told you, did the big acceleration. Filippo Zana's made it in this front group, and Max Pulley's there. Soler is back there suffering with Riccatello, but they'll close back up shortly afterwards to put 6 riders in this front group. Now, this starts getting exciting because we start seeing Soler throw an attack, and when Soler throws an attack after he just got back on, it's sending Del Toro out the back, and Riccatello is going to start to drop too. Next up to attack is going to be Max Pulley, the DSM rider. Once he throws in his acceleration, things are getting interesting. It's Filippo Zana with him, and we see Soler struggling on the back. Soler is going to fight tooth and nail. He's going to find his way back up to this group. Now we got 3 riders in the front here trying to win today's famous finishing climb here on stage 16 in the Vuelta. We go down and look at the peloton, what was happening. Soudal Quickstep's on the front. They're trying to light this up right now for Mikel Landa so he can make some progress on the general classification favorites. Primoz Roglic, Bora Hansgrohe's team hasn't had to ride the front throughout this stage 16. We go back up and see what's happening in the break. Soler's throwing in another attack at this moment. This is blowing up. Filippo Zana getting dropped off the back, but Max Pull is finding his way back up to Soler. Now these 2 riders are exchanging turns, but neither one looks comfortable on the pedals as it's getting steeper and steeper, and we're starting to go into the fog. We're coming into about 4.5 kilometers to go. Soler throws in his attack, and we see Max Pull's getting gapped. Now, what's happening in the GC group? We find it's Moss on the front. He has destroyed it. We got about 6 riders in the front group. Ben O'Connor's losing time right now, but they're coming up to a little paint strip on the climb here. Once we see Primoz Roglic sitting just behind the wheel there of Carapaz, Carapaz's wheel slips. Primoz Roglic slips too. His chest goes all the way down to the bars, but he saves it there for Bora Hansgrohe and keeps up in this front group. Moss is starting to accelerate, but the guys in the back are all struggling. It's blowing up. GC bodies all over the place as we see a bunch of the favorites are starting to drop. Then we go back up to the front. We see that, of course, that Soler is throwing in his attack. He's getting a gap on Filippo Zana. It's up to about 10 seconds, but they're in the fog. It's getting difficult, and they don't have the clock up top to show us exactly how much time he's gaining. We go further back down. Primoz Roglic has recovered from that slipped wheel. Everything's still together amongst the big-time GC favorites because there's only like 5 guys left. Moss is up there. Carapaz is up there. Primoz Roglic is up there. Landa's starting to drift off of the back wheel, but Davide Gaudu from FDJ's having a fine ride. Now Moss is on the front multiple times coming up this climb, but Primoz Roglic is always following the wheels. We go up top and we come down the first of the descent with about 3.3 kilometers to go. Soler is finding some descending form at this moment. I've seen this guy descend many times, but I believe he just knows that these roads here in Spain are crazy slippery, and now he knows he's got a shot at winning stage 16 on the famous climb. As he's bombing down the descent, he comes back up to the rise in the road, and it gets steep and hard here, but Soler's still got a gap back there as we don't know what's happening in the second place, really, because the fog is too thick. We start looking at the GC favorites. Once they drop down the descent, Primoz Roglic takes the front. This is probably a wise choice. I don't know if you want to be behind Enric Mas in the rain, in the fog, going down a technical, steep, twisty descent like this. So Primoz Roglic takes the lead. As he finishes the lead, once the road starts coming back up, we're going to see Moss on the front. Carapaz is always up and near the front, but Primoz Roglic is always just holding the back wheel. They're never just going to the front and driving it to the finish to put time on Ben O'Connor. We look at Ben O'Connor coming down the descent. He's caught and passed a few riders back there, but he's still by himself and having no help on the front. As he drops down the descent, all the riders are coming up to the final here. As Soler drops down the last 900 meters, he comes up to the last 200-meter bend. He wins today's stage 16 here for UAE Team Emirates. Let me remind you guys, they won stage 1 with Brandon McNulty. They won stage 9 with Adam Yates. Now they're taking a third stage victory here at the Vuelta a España for UAE Team Emirates. Congratulations, Soler. That was some incredible suffering. When we look at second place, it's Filippo Zana crossing the line, then Max Puglia across for third place here to round out the podium on stage 16. The GC battle has been hot and heavy back there as Primož Roglič drops down the next descent here with 900 meters to go. Again, taking the front. He's going to lead into about 400 meters to go. Then we're going to see Enric Mas take over at the front, trying to accelerate to get time on Ben O'Connor and possibly drop Primož Roglič as he leads the GC favorite trio here across the line with Carapaz, with Mas, and Primož Roglič all locked onto each other's wheel. About 4 minutes and 50 seconds back from the stage winner, Marc Soler. What's happening to the race leader's red jersey back there? He's coming in the final bends. He's got a shot here of keeping the race leader's red jersey at the Vuelta a España as Ben O'Connor is suffering on the pedals. He comes across the line and keeps the jersey by 5 seconds here at the Vuelta a España. Amazing ride from Ben O'Connor, who suffered every pedal stroke coming up this climb. Now, when I want to talk about the tactics of today's race, Movistar started the ride on the second category climb here. I'm okay with it. I don't never want to see that Mas would try to go solo with 60 plus kilometers to go if he was to attack and they open up the gap. He attacked to see if he can get some of the favorites back there to go with him. They didn't really bite for the bait right there, so he backed off the throttle. We see AG2R had to take back over at the front. Primož Roglič, Bora Hansgrohe team never had the ride today. So if I'm looking at it tactically throughout today's race, I would say the only real mistake I saw, it almost looked about perfect in today's race, but the only real mistake that I saw, I think AG2R rode a little bit too hard. Don't ride the front at all, make Bora Hansgrohe ride. They rode, they kept the race leader's red jersey, so how bad was it? Well, Ben O'Connor, by riding a little bit too hard there on the second category climb, when I don't believe you had to ride that kind of pace with Parapentre, I don't know if that was necessary. And then, of course, when Mikel Landa attacked, I don't know if AG2R needed to worry so much about Mikel Landa. Maybe you set the pace just a little bit softer back there to help the legs of Ben O'Connor. But once we started seeing the attacks from Mas, the pace setting, and then Ben O'Connor start getting gapped, then we start seeing the attacks from all the favorites up there. Ben O'Connor just kept losing some more time. Not knucklehead move by any means, but if you want to be perfect, maybe if you're AG2R, you let Bora Hansgrohe control the whole stage. Either way, though, you still got the race leader's red jersey. Tomorrow's a sprint stage, and the next day you're going to keep the red race leader's jersey. So that means Ben O'Connor, we're going to see him in red here for a few more stages at the Vuelta a España. And Bora Hansgrohe, by not riding throughout today's stage, meant that, of course, Primož Roglič didn't have a shot at taking the 10-second time bonus, but Primož Roglič didn't look that good. So when I start talking about the #1 rules and the butterfly effect and all that stuff about how you don't attack Primož Roglič, well, I don't think we see Primož Roglič with first page form at this moment at the Vuelta a España. So Enric Mas, so Carapaz, so Mikel Landa, if you can light Primož Roglič up, you light him up. But don't let him sit on your wheel for too long, because at some point in time here at the Vuelta a España, like we saw at last year's Giro d'Italia, Primož Roglic's form might finally switch on to that 100% fitness that he's been missing throughout this 24 edition, and it might be like the Giro d'Italia, where we don't see it until the penultimate day or maybe even the last day in the individual time trial, because Primož Roglič at this moment certainly is not 100% on form, certainly does not have the legs of a first-page rider. Rightfully so, he crashed at the Tour de France, I understand that, but he doesn't have that form. So now I'm going to say, with these last 2 mountain stages left, an individual time trial, with only 2 big mountain stages left, you got to attack Primož Roglič however you can. You got to make time and still drop Ben O'Connor if you're Enric Mas, Mikel Landa, and Carapaz. You have to do everything you can. Now, in terms of all the jerseys today, guess what? Ben O'Connor's jersey was the only one that didn't change. With the crash and the abandonment of Wout van Aert, that means green's going to go to Caden Groves, the KOM jersey is going to go to Jay Vine, and the white jersey changed because Lipovitz got dropped from Carlos Rodriguez, who put himself back in the white. So 3 of the 4 jerseys changed after today's stage 16. Like and subscribe. I'll see you guys on the next edition real soon.